$35 worth of free questions about how automation is affecting mining. Conversations about mining. Hi, Jess. How are you?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Andrew. How you going?
Yeah, really good. Thanks. Hot. It's been really hot here in Perth for the last couple of days. So, yeah, really feeling the heat at the moment. So, if the lighting's a bit
Yeah.
different, it's because everything's shut up in here. So, I don't have any of the
Yeah.
windows open or anything like that. So, yeah, if I'm a bit bright or a bit dull, I'm sorry. It's just not normal circumstance at the moment. So, yeah.
Yeah, everyone's struggling with that first few days of hot weather, that's for sure.
Definitely, definitely. So yeah, we've decided to do some more of these $35 questions because they seem to be really, really popular. And we've had one set in about automation. So you've got a few questions that you're going to ask me about automation. So fire away.
I do. So the first question I have is what are the rules for the driverless equipment or the automated trucks? That's what most people are asking about. Like, yeah, what are the rules for them?
Okay, so the rules are pretty simple. They're exclusion zones put in place. So normally when
Hmm.
it first started, the exclusion zones, the area had to be physically barriered off. So it normally has got a
Hmm.
great big bund wall around it, or there's
Yeah.
lasers in place underground, so it blocks off the level if they're using a remote bogger or something like that. Now it's moved along a bit more with the iron ore mines on the surface and the big strip mines where the big 300 and 400 ton trucks drive themselves. They have a
Hmm.
250-meter exclusion zone around them. So when the vehicle
Yeah.
approaches somebody, if it hits that 250-meter zone, the vehicle will stop dead where it is. And that's the crux of the issue with these driverless vehicles is that they've all got to be used in an exclusion zone. And there's some reasons
Yeah.
for that. So yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
that's the big thing.
And how did those rules come in? Like, how did they come up with that kind of solution or that rule?
Yep, yep. So this happened. I actually lived through this because I was a remote bogger operator back in the day. And so when the boggers first, so the underground loaders, we drive them into stopes, the big open stopes. So if anything
Yeah.
falls down on top of the bogger gets crushed and the person isn't in there. It's just all on remote control. But yeah, when they first came out, they were like your remote control cars that were tethered to the remote control. And so you drive the
Hmm.
bogger in and it actually have a cord that it would wind itself back.
Oh,
That's
wow.
how it first
Yeah.
started in the early 90s. And then they got the RCT technology involved, so the remote control, so with the radio technology. So that's where I first
Yeah.
came into it. But when I first came into it, there were no rules. You just take the remote bogger down and you'd bog and you could do whatever you want. And then in about
Yeah.
96, about I think it was September or August 96, they killed 4 people in 6 weeks remote bogging. So people
Oh,
scraped
wow.
themselves up against the wall. The 4 of them went in 6 weeks, and terrible. I was actually on a remote bogger at the time, and the mines department cracked down on it so much that they didn't know what they were going to do. So they suspended all remote bogging for 6 weeks. So
Hmm.
I got a 2 week holiday, and then I got to go and bog headings for the rest of the time, which was
Yeah.
fun and something different. But when we came back, the new rules had started to evolve. So now there was a definite rule that the bogger had to remain more than 5 meters away from you at all times. You could no longer bring
Okay.
the bogger back up next to you, so you could just jump straight into the cab. You had to
Yeah.
have 5 meters. And then it went to you had to stand on a great big bund. So if you were remote bogging, you had to be on a bund that if the bogger went crazy, it came back, it wouldn't, hit you, it just hit the bund and
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah.
Then yeah, and it just kept on evolving over the next sort of four
Yeah.
years and
Yeah.
then we came teleremotes came in, so the cabs started to come in with the cameras, and when that happened, that's when they really looked at it, and that's when you started to get your exclusion zone rules. So the
Okay.
rules are, if you're operating a remote bogger underground, you've got lasers up before somebody can enter the area that you're remote bogging in. So if I'm sitting in the cab, before the shift boss can come in, they've got to make contact with me and ask that it's safe that they can come
Yeah.
in, and then they can come in. And so the
Yeah.
rules
Sure.
got really
Sure.
strict. And that's basically where we're at with it now. And because all those people got
Okay.
killed back in the day, they're never going to change those exclusion zone rules. I know the iron ore
Yeah.
companies are trying to get it to the stage where the utes can drive around the big trucks and they think there's not going to be a problem. Yeah, trust me, there's going to be a problem. I wouldn't be anywhere
Yeah. It
near one
won't
of
be a
those.
problem until someone dies.
Yeah, exactly. I had a bogger chase me around a stope just before all this went crazy, before yeah, they suspended it all. The bogger just went nuts,
Yeah.
and I had a remote cuddy that I could jump in, and I was in the remote cuddy for a couple of hours while this thing just drove up
Yeah.
and down beside me. Oh, sorry, I just hit the table there. But yeah, it is what it is. The upshot of it is that with the remote boggers underground, they still can't get the bogger to get a bucket of dirt by itself. You still need a human to operate it and put it into the stockpile and all that sort of stuff. The boggers have
Yep.
been driving themselves since 2006, so yeah, it's been around. Technology's been around for a long time. But yeah, that's what how the rules started out, and the reason that they're not going to change them anytime soon is because all the people that they've killed in the past when they were developing the technology. So my personal
Yeah.
opinion is with the underground, if you can't establish the exclusion zone, like they'll be driving trucks on the surface streets, driverless before they'll be driving, underground trucks
Yeah.
driverless, just purely because of
Yeah.
what's happened in the past. On the
Yeah.
surface, in the shallow pits and the strip mines on the surface, that technology is built for it. And that's why,
Yeah.
unfortunately, all these companies have jumped onto it.
Yeah. And how is it affecting mining at the moment? Like, in your opinion, how is it affecting mining? How is it affecting where people are getting jobs?
Well, yeah, it's pretty much meant that, all the traineeships on the surface have disappeared.
Mm.
I know I've highlighted
Yeah.
the article from the BBC on the channel already, but, they're replacing every 25 truck drivers with one person in Perth. They're saving themselves huge amounts of money. It's
Yeah.
hundreds of millions of dollars that they're saving themselves.
Really?
And so,
That was my next question.
yeah,
Was
yeah.
how much money are they actually saving?
Yeah, so I worked it out with the BBC article, 25 truck drivers. So if you're replacing 25 trucks with the truck drivers that drive them, which is the driverless people. So for 25 trucks on a 24-hour roster, you need 100 truck drivers. For the same
Yeah.
trucks to be covered on a 24-hour roster in Perth, you only need four people. So if you're paying
Yeah.
your 100 truck drivers 120 grand a year, it's 12 million. If you're paying your
Yeah.
four people down in Perth 80 grand a year, it's 320,000. And that's only for
Yeah.
25 trucks. Rio's replaced 360 trucks. So you
Yeah.
can do the maths yourself. It comes in at
Yeah. They're
hundreds of
saving a
millions of
shitload.
dollars a year. Yeah, and that's why everybody's looking to do it. And when they say that nobody's going to lose their jobs because of driverless trucks, that was all well and good if you were employed by BHP at the time. I do believe that nobody lost their job, but where it's come
Yeah.
around is that the people that are looking for jobs at the moment just aren't going to get jobs that they otherwise would have got. And so you're left
Yeah.
with this situation where the majority of the surface mines are already driverless or they're going driverless.
Hmm.
And really, the place that they need people, they need bums in seats are underground trucks. Because while the trucks can
Yeah.
technically drive themselves, they can't establish the exclusion zones to do it. They had a
Yeah.
mob in Africa try and do it. And the way they were going to try and do it was to run parallel declines. So one that the remote
Oh,
trucks would
yeah.
drive down and the other one that people would drive down. It's a very expensive way to do things. Very, very expensive.
Yeah.
And I don't see
Yeah.
how you'd save the money back coming the other way, considering that the
Yeah.
decline that you're putting down for the remote trucks is costing you probably $10,000 a meter. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If you've got to put a decline down
Yeah.
that's 8Ks long, yeah, it's a lot of money. So, yeah.
Yeah. It is. It is. And
Excellent.
how is it going to affect the industry on a whole, do you think? Like, do you think it's going to, everything is going to, obviously, other than the underground, which is going to be very hard work for them to go, but do you think more and more jobs are going to go driverless? More, operating roles are going to go driverless in the
Yep.
coming years?
I think
Yeah.
so. I think it's already started. I know BHP, the coal, the Mitsubishi BHP alliance, they've got Komatsu in to turn all their trucks driverless, and they're in the process of doing that. Everybody's
Yeah.
doing it. Wherever they think that they can do it, they're doing it because they've seen how much money places like Rio are saving with getting rid of the truck drivers.
Yeah.
And also they throw the safety element in as well, which I think is a bit unfair because it's hard for anybody to hurt themselves in an area where nobody's allowed to be. So
Yeah.
they come back and say, oh, it's, you know, it's 100% safer than if we had people in it. Well, of course it's
Yeah.
100% safer than if you had people in it, because you got no people in the area, so they can't hurt
Yeah.
themselves. I still
Yeah.
think they're having, you know, same sort of accidents, you know, with people hurting
Yeah.
themselves around the trucks. It's just the people filling them up and servicing them and all that sort of stuff that are
Yeah.
doing the damage
Yeah.
than the truck drivers that used to do that sort of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool. Excellent. So if you've got any other questions like this that you'd like answered, please send them through. And yeah, if you could share the video around and like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks.
Thank you.